evening and welcome to the Fredonia Central School District Board of Education meeting for Thursday, June 20th, 2024. Thank you for your patience in this delay of 2 days. It was a personal issue that meant a lot to me, and I appreciate everybody coming in today instead of Tuesday. We start every meeting with a pledge to our flag, and we have a flag over here, so everyone
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. We have a proposed agenda for tonight's meeting. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please, and we can discuss if we need anything pulled out of the consent.
So moved.
Mr. Marshall, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Pillow. Is there anything that anyone would like pulled out of consent? Okay. If not, we probably could change some of the order, but I think we're going to go, I hope that we're going to go pretty quick, Mr. Forbes, through your portion.
Some questions.
Yeah. Mr. Forbes? Okay. If not, if there's nothing to be pulled out of consent, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye. All opposed? Thank you. We have reserved this time to hear comments from our audience. Those wishing to address the board are asked to stand, give their name and address, and limit their comments to 5 minutes or less per individual group. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board? Yes. Do we have a microphone?
He'll just pick up from one of the mics that are on the table today.
Okay.
Yep, there. Thank you, Aaron. There should be enough to move.
Hi, I'm Susan Spengler. I live at 62 Maple Avenue in Fredonia, and I wanted to express my concern about the plan for the high school to change from a block schedule to a traditional one. I taught high school for 16 years in both a poor rural district with a traditional schedule and a national blue ribbon school, much like Fredonia, with a large number of college-bound students and a block schedule. I'm currently a professor at Fredonia where I work with pre-service teachers. And I've also served as the international exam leader for advanced placement exam in English literature, supervising hundreds of AP instructors and scorers. I know the schedule issue is more complex than it seems on the surface, which is why I'm asking that a committee be formed to study the potential impact that a schedule change may have on the school. I've personally seen the benefits of block scheduling, from the extended time for in-depth discussions on higher order concepts like those found in AP or dual credit courses, or more hands-on experiential learning projects, to the improved college readiness that comes from exposure to college-length courses in high school, to time management skills and flexibility for student athletes, musicians, or those with jobs, to reduce disciplinary problems in the hallways due to a decreased number of passing periods. None of this is to say that shorter periods might not also have benefits. After listening carefully to the presentation at the last board meeting, I too am curious about the concerns that Mr. Paschke raised regarding student anxiety and attendance, and I agree these topics deserve further research, which is why I'm calling for a task force before changes are made. A task force could conduct a survey on different school populations, from high-achieving students to those with special needs, from teachers of AP classes to teachers of vocational courses, from student athletes juggling heavy homework loads to students with attendance issues trying to make up work. They could also visit schools that have switched from a block to a traditional schedule to see what outcomes they've observed, such as whether or not the change led to an increase of disciplinary concerns or anxiety during passing periods, or if the loss of instructional time correlates in any way to test scores, attention spans, or college readiness. As a national blue ribbon school, Fredonia has the responsibility to be a leader in educational best practices. Any policies that affect academic performance should be carefully examined before implementation. As Mr. Pesky stated, we want the best schedule for the students we have now. So let's take the time to do this deliberately. I urge you to slow down this process in order to design the best possible schedule for the students Fredonia has now. Form a task force, do the research, investigate alternative schedules and models, develop a data-driven rationale for why this change is needed or not. Then have a process in place to measure the success of any recommended changes. The last meeting, Mr. Hawk referred to the 2060 roundabout as an example of changes that might be scary in the community. Well, the state didn't make the decision to change the intersection lightly. They did traffic studies. They did comparisons to similar intersections. They hired surveyors, contractors, and safety experts. Though many opposed the project on principle, officials were able to offer a clear rationale, extensive data, and measurable outcomes for success. As a parent, educator, and educational researcher, this is the type of process I would like to see the district implement as they proceed with the evaluation of Fredonia's scheduling practices, and I urge you as a board to take this time and steps necessary to do so properly. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Ms. Spangler. And we did receive your email that basically was exactly what you were. Thank you.
I also just wanted to note there'll be more information in the superintendent's report, which is later in the agenda, just FYI. Okay.
Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Okay. So we have the minutes from our regular meeting of June 4th, 2024. If I could have a motion to bring those to the floor for approval.
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Mark. Is there any questions, corrections on those? If not, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the minutes from the policy meeting of June 6th as submitted. If I could have a motion to bring those to the floor for approval.
So moved.
Ms. Fortman, and a second.
Second.
Mr. Johnson. Any questions on that? All those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the minutes from the audit meeting of June 13th, 2024 as submitted. If I could have a motion to bring those to the floor.
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paul Faulkner. Any questions on that? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the financial treasurer's report with the budget status report, investment report, and revenue report. Mr. Ford?
Take those all together like we have been doing of late. So on the revenue side, we had 2.4 million of basic foundation aid and excess cost aid come in, which was scheduled. We also had an additional 19,000 of Medicaid reimbursement. So Medicaid reimbursement, we're now over budget in that area as well. Our investments continue to be very good. Treasury bill rates have remained consistent between about 5.23 and 5.28. So we're about 230,000 of revenue interest for the year through the end of May, and we had budgeted 50. So we're doing quite well in that area. You'll see this begin to wane a little bit in the month of June because we just don't have the funds available to invest. And things that you invest in June go to the maturities into the next school year, so they don't count for this school year. So your number won't change too greatly for June. The dashboard adjusted for various things on the expenditure side and also the changes in revenue, some of which I just highlighted. So we're still tracking in that 825, 850 range for fund balance at the end of the year. We did apply $1 million, so you're going to have that decrease that we talked about on multiple occasions. But then next year, we're hoping that that'll level out and begin to come back up with how we plan the budget for 24-25. Have any questions?
was wondering, can you answer to the foundation aid and just educate me on this, Mr. Forbes? So we're budgeted for this year 12 million. Estimated is 11.83. So, but then what is excess costing? Because that's, we're getting more.
That's based upon your high-cost special education
Okay.
costs, which were up, so we anticipate that. Categorical aid, so they're budgeting based on previous historical data, and then when they get the audited version, then we get the change in aid. So that excess cost, foundation aid, building aid, transportation aid, all come as one package, if you want to call it that, in the initial budget for the state, and then it gets broken out beyond that. So if you take a look across, you see we're up in excess cost aid, we're showing 0 on building aid, because the building aid typically is paid in June of the year as part of the last paid payment, and also is booked as a receivable for September. Same thing with transportation aid. So those numbers will fill in once we get to a final total.
So they're all interconnected?
Yep.
Thank you. And the BOCES aid hasn't come in yet. Okay.
BOCES aid is interesting because they used to pay it all during the school year, and then they changed to a formula that about 45% is carried through and gets paid in September, which is their fund balance. They have to be 0, more or less. And so then the way they track it is they have to make it payable to us so that they can zero out their books.
And so your small fund for revenue, 422,000, that's more revenue than we were estimating.
Yes.
And in terms of expenditures, we're down we spent about $500,000 less than we were expecting.
Which, we planned that as part of the fund balance calculation.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
So if you were a betting man, which I know you're not, would you bet me a dozen donuts you're gonna break even on that? You're gonna get to that $1 million that we took from
You won't get
reserves?
to the $1 million.
Excuse me?
I don't think you get to the $1 million.
You're pretty close.
Would they be chocolate? Yeah, probably about 850.
I think so. I mean, you're 920 right now.
We got June to go yet.
Okay.
Anybody?
Okay. Any other questions? All good? Okay. If I could have a motion to bring the treasurer's report to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Hahn, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Goa. Mr. Forbes, anything on that?
All good.
We're all good.
Yep.
Everything balances? Good. Any questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have the approval of a contract with Children's Education Services for school-based therapy services for this summer. Could I have a motion to bring that to the floor, please?
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Balfour. I'm sorry, it's tough for me up here, and don't ask me why.
It was
If
Ms.
it's-
Hahn,
If it's
actually.
the acoustics, or if it's just everybody's out of place, I don't know. Thank you. Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, again, this has come up a couple times this year. Children's Educational Services is better known to most of us as Little Seeds. And as you know, over the summer, we have an extended year program in special education, and we continue to offer services throughout the summer. And Little Seeds is a great partner for us in offering services to our students through their program. It's a nice partnership since they've been great and are part of the Wheelock family. So it's sort of a win-win, and this ensures that this will be happening throughout the summer for our extended year. So,
Any questions? If there's no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, we have a couple of 10-year approvals here. And I wouldn't forgive myself if I didn't say from the very beginning that we have looked at all three of these tenure approvals in executive session in the past. And we had reports from our principals on each of these three. So this isn't the first time that we've seen this. I just want everybody to know it's not a quick approval and we didn't look at this. This is something that we take very seriously. Dr. Ziliaks has done a tremendous job of hiring some great people, and we're very pleased with that. But the tenure is just one extra place where we check this, and we don't want to leave our responsibility on the table. We want to take responsibility for approval of these tenures. So just so everybody realizes, we have looked at this and we have asked the questions of our principals. So with that, we have I'm asking for a motion to approve the recommendation of tenure for Christina Brinkle-Covert,
So
Mr. Marshall, and Ms. Gullo. Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, I'll share a few thoughts. I'll kick it over to our administrators, and then I think Kim Adranowski, would you like to say a few words about each individual person, or?
Sure.
Yeah, so we'll kind of share that. But you know, again, as Mr. Aldridge said, it's a nice reward at the end of the school year to see people who have earned tenure in the district, and it's definitely not something that's given yet. These are three really good examples. Christina, who's here tonight with us, I do a lap through the building most mornings, and I'm at some point go through the grade 5 cluster, and it's clear to me that Christina is very hardworking. She's very conscientious. She's a team player with her other colleagues at the grade 5 level, and it also seems to me that she just quietly goes about her business and does a really nice job being prepared and really thinking about how you engage students in the classroom. And I think that came through in the recommendations from Ms. Paul Hamus. And what would you like to add?
Yes, Mrs. Covert has been an excellent addition to our middle school family. She prides herself on individualized student instruction. She incorporates the workshop model, has a great working relationship with both her counterpart as well as with the 5th grade team in general. Develops great relationships with her kids and students and her families, and always willing to lend an extra hand as needed. So we're very grateful to have her.
Mrs. Badranowski.
Okay. Good evening. On behalf of the Fredonia Teachers Association, it is my great pleasure to congratulate 3 exceptional professionals for attaining tenure at Fredonia Central Schools: Christina Covert, Shannon Marsh, and Naomi Pierce. Christina has shown herself to be an impactful part of the grade 5 team. She is hardworking and dedicated to student success in her science and math classes. She was hired over Zoom to be a 5th grade math and science teacher, reassigned over the summer as a Zoom 4th grade teacher in the 5th grade cluster. Physically but not part of the 5th grade team and separated from her other elementary colleagues until Team 5 was able to be in person in the spring of 2021. She was very flexible with all of the changes she went through that school year. Christina is a dedicated Fredonia teacher, strong in her content knowledge, with high expectations of herself and her students. Her students and peers respect her and seek her out as a reliable source of support.
Any questions from the board? I guess we had our opportunity in the past, so, okay. If not, all those in favor of approval of tenure signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Great, congratulations. Any words?
No. I'm very excited to be here though and be with Fredonia, so.
Great.
But thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Next, if I could have a motion for the tenure of Shannon Marsh. Ms. Paul Fortner, and a second. Mr. Ziliak.
Ms. Paul Hamus, why don't you start us off?
All right, another excellent addition to our middle school family and our E&L department at the middle school. Shannon builds caring and supportive relationships with all of the kids that she supports. She plans regularly with all of the classroom that she provides supports in. And she gets involved in other opportunities outside of just the E&L realm. She provides opportunities for our kids to cook and bake. She's a part of service learning, Girls on the Run, even Quest this year, despite the fact that she's doing just a little bit with her first baby, so she's very brave. But yes, a wonderful addition to our entire middle school family.
Ms. Mayeron?
All right. Shannon Marsh is a ray of sunshine. She clearly loves her ENL students and they love her too. She has been a wonderful addition to the middle school and I have no doubt that she will continue to be an asset to the district. She's been a chaperone for Quest Backpacking and shows potential for future leadership. She is exceptionally knowledgeable and makes sure her students are successful across all of their subject areas. She shares resources and expertise and collaborates with her colleagues all the time.
And I was just going to add, although my list is dwindled, because I don't want to repeat anything, but you know, I've known Shannon to definitely advocate for her students and what they need. Also works with her department in a creative way to make things work. And also wears many hats, has been mentioned, and also will be joining us as volleyball coach next year as well. So, all around, great work.
Any questions? I do have one. You didn't really go on the quest, did you?
I did. Yeah.
My wife had 4 kids. I wouldn't have gone on quest.
I did go home the last night of the 4-day just to sleep in a bed because it was raining and then shower, but I came back and finished the high school.
Just so you could get tenure, right? Any comments?
Thank you so much. I'm very happy here and plan to be here for the rest of my career.
Thanks. Hope you are. Great. So with that, if I could get, if everyone, stop for a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. Lastly, if I could have a motion to bring Naomi Pierce, her recommendation for tenure to the floor.
So moved.
Ms. Gallo, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Paul Fortner. Mr. Ziliak.
Ms. Mayeronowski?
Naomi Pierce has a challenging role at Wheelock, but you would never guess how tough her job is because she meets it every day with positivity and that beautiful smile. Naomi understands the strengths and needs of each of her students and is able to give them the support they need with kindness, compassion, and dedication. She instinctively knows when a child needs boundaries and when they need grace and provides both with love and care. She is supportive of the families of her students and makes time to connect with them regularly. Naomi is truly a team player and a very helpful colleague. She is a valuable asset to our Wheelock family.
I just wanted to add, along with Mrs. Farrow, who couldn't be here tonight, that we recognize Naomi as really being part of that welcoming, nurturing Wheelock family feel. I feel like the thing that is difficult in the special education is find that balance between structure and flexibility. And I think you do a very nice job walking that line between those two. You've also been involved in safety care in the district, always pleasant and positive. And we also did a little committee work last year, and I appreciated getting to know you a little bit better and also your input through that process. Mrs. Pepper?
Just a few things to add. Naomi is an exceptional educator, exceptional. She's patient, she's kind, she's nurturing, and she has our most needy students at their youngest ages. They come in and she just loves them. She brings the best out of these students. Most of the students start the year with her fully self-contained and end the year, most of their day in general education. She finds the best out of them and does it in a magical way I know I couldn't do, so she's excellent and I'm thrilled to have her as part of the Ruck family and for everybody.
You've got some good people in here. Any questions on the board? Just one question. Who do we have here with you? Who came with you today?
This is my daughter, Isabella.
Hi, Isabella. Okay. If there's no questions, all those in favor of approval signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Congratulations. Congratulations to all. Next, we have the appointment of Mary Williams to a probationary teaching position in the music tenure area. If I could have a motion to bring that to the floor, please.
So moved.
Ms. Cole for a second.
Second.
Mr. Murphy. Mr. Ziliaks.
I just want to make sure, Molly's not here, is she? Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't miss her. So I know on the agenda it says Mary, which I think is her given name, but she goes by Molly, and we're excited to have a new member of our music department joining us. She brings several qualifications, a bachelor's of music performance from UB, another bachelor's of music education from SUNY Fredonia, and also a master's in music education in the band track from Vandercook College of Music. She has many years' experience at Iroquois Central School District. She was middle school band director for the majority of her time there. She also has done middle school general music in grades 5 through 8. She also conducted a research project studying 14 local schools and instrumental recruitment best practices in order to design a new model of recruitment for Iroquois. Thought that was interesting and unique. She was also part of the Buffalo Philharmonic Education Committee for about 5 years, and also was drama club advisor as well as a summer music coordinator. She also plays in several ensembles herself currently, and is actively participating in making music herself outside of the classroom. So we're excited to have her on board, and are looking forward to her joining us at the start of next school year.
Great. Any questions from the board?
Ms. Paul-Hamus, anything to add there?
I think you covered it.
Okay. If there's no further questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Thank you. Next, if I could have the approval of the appointment of Elizabeth Bumpus to a probationary teaching position in the social studies tenure area.
So
Ms. Pello, and a second.
Second.
I think that was Mrs. Hahn. Mr. Ziliaks.
Yeah, we're excited to have Liz returning to Fredonia. She's a Fredonia grad. I think at least one person in the room has helped be part of her education. She is a new teacher, which we're also excited about. Bachelor of Science in Education from SUNY Fredonia, Master's in Science and Education from SUNY Fredonia as well, expected at the end of the May semester in '25. She had a variety of student teaching experiences at Casadega and at Dunkirk. She also was a graduate assistant in the Office of Student Services at SUNY Fredonia during her time there. I know she was participated in bowling while she was here and expressed an interest in get involved in things beyond the classroom. So we're excited to have Liz return. Again, she'll be in the high school socials department as a replacement for Coach Bertrando, who, as you know, moved down to our PE department. And Mr. Paschke, anything else you wanted to share?
Yeah, Liz was amazing at her interview. We had several people reach out to us before we even could call references, people were calling up saying, you need to get this girl. And she didn't disappoint in her interview. She had a fantastic lesson prepared, just top notch. That wowed even Beth Merwin, who is, I mean, she's very particular, and she was like, this is amazing. You know, another positive is that we had 36 applicants for this position, which is unusual. I mean, it's nice to have that many, because as you know, sometimes in the current climate with very few educators out there right now, that sometimes you get 2 or 3 applicants. So she really had to put the pedal to the metal, and she did. And we're really proud of her and welcome her to Fredonia. So thank you.
I'm sorry. You're Liz?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments, Liz?
I'm very happy to be back with the Fredonia family, and I'm very thankful to get the opportunity to learn once again from so many wonderful educators.
Great. Any questions from the board?
And I'm sorry, Liz, I knew you were here and forgot to say that, so I apologize.
Okay. If there's no questions, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Congratulations. Next, we have, if I could have a motion for the approval of Erin Henry to a probationary teaching position in the elementary tenure area.
So
Mr. Marshall, and a second.
Second.
Ms. Bello. Mr. Ziliak.
Yeah, so you probably have recognized Erin's name. She is part of the middle school special ed department currently over this past year, and then she will be moving on to grade 6. Just as a reminder, she has actually 6 certifications in childhood education, students with disabilities, and literacy. She's also a SUNY Fredonia graduate, Master's of Science in Education, as well as Bachelor's of Science in Education, Childhood and Inclusive Education. And prior to the year of experience here, she had experience in Frontier and Hamburg, also in Silver Creek, and also in Dunkirk. So Erin has done a great job. We're happy to have her continuing with us in a slightly different role. Ms. Paul Hames, anything to add?
She's done an outstanding job in her role as a special educator in our building. She has developed great relationships with kids, the teachers that she supports. I know she's going to make a seamless transition into the 6th grade team. She'll be a hard vacancy to fill because of the high caliber that she ran that room with. So we'll be missed in that way, but I'm glad that she's still with us.
And Erin is not here.
She's not.
Okay. Any questions from the board? No? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. Next, Mr. Ziliak, we have, I'll take that back. We have a second opportunity to hear from the public. Is there anyone who would like to address the board? Okay.
Yes.
You do?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead. Can stand with you?
Good evening. Children are entering our classrooms with more and more needs, and we just wanted to speak to those needs. In the past year, I've never needed to restrict movement of a child, in the past, I've never needed to restrict the movement of a child due to eloping or severe physical aggression. We supported, taught, modeled, and scaffolded. We supported children with big feelings and taught them to express them without hitting, biting, kicking, screaming, etc. Good sitting simply meant that we need to remind them to crisscross applesauce, don't touch your neighbors, and just sit. Make sure they had enough personal space. Our classrooms provided a predictable, engaging environment. The children knew what was expected of them, when and where. They knew how to meet these expectations, for example, use words instead of hitting, wash hands before we ate, and they felt loved and supported, and behaviors were minimal. They were mostly related to being, if they had behavior, they were mostly related to being tired or hungry or frustrated. And we knew if they did have behavior, a child simply was frustrated and they needed extra adult support. Flash forward to today. We now have an emergency plans in place for children who are volatile and erupt without prediction. We often must clear the classrooms due to violent behavior, for example, throwing chairs, kicking, punching, and angry words, with words being thrown at whoever steps in the way of an escalated child. This scenario is not an isolated incident to my classroom. Walk up and down our hallways at Wheelock and spend time in our classrooms, and you will witness incidents such as I am describing. This year, I put an emergency plan in place after a volatile incident in my classroom of a child who escalated and swung back, with his arm hitting my head, causing me to have herniated discs in my neck, and resulting in over a month out of work, followed by 3 months of physical therapy. We now practice safe practices and safe choices, leaving the classroom quickly when this child is escalated. This safety plan is necessary even if it is not developmentally appropriate, to keep all children safe. The escalated child and the rest of the children placed in my care, I need to keep them safe. I want to do what is best for all children I teach. However, at times, I feel limited by the supports that are in place. Last year, another incident, quite different from any other experience in my teaching experience, occurred. That has forever left its mark on me. I had a little girl arrive in my classroom mid-year, highly traumatized, almost nonverbal, not potty trained, and severely neglected and abused. She was a CPS case. However, I soon learned the limits of CPS, as well as a slow-moving process of family court. Through this child, I learned how to navigate the world of child advocacy. The child bonded with me quickly, and I with her. She was not comfortable with many other staff outside of the school nurse and me. I spent a huge portion of my school day running between the school health office and my classroom with this child, often missing precious time with my other students. This child needed constant care from the same familiar faces. This student is now a success story. She has blossomed and grown and thrills me to watch her walk down our hallways. Early intervention, counseling, and supports are needed desperately, desperately at our school. This child did not blossom because of these, though, as the care for her was inconsistent, and those that came in contact with her were intermittent, and they were strangers, and she would not leave my side. I don't ever regret the time I gave her. It was my duty, but I often struggled with the guilt I had over neglecting the other children who I was to teach and who I was to care for. These students are our most vulnerable population. They are our earliest learners. Times are changing, and we need to change with them. We need support from the same reliable staff each and every day. Our children at Wheelock count, and we need to change how we are viewing these children. Thank you.
Thank you.
Linda Kaminsky, 10 Martha's Vineyard, kindergarten teacher. So did you know that a stressed brain cannot learn? Research shows that children who are mentally healthy tend to be happier, show greater motivation to learn, have a more positive attitude towards school, more eagerly participate in class activities, and demonstrate a higher academic performance than less mentally healthy peers. Children who exhibit social and emotional difficulties tend to have trouble following directions and participating in learning activities. They are more likely to be rejected by classmates, have low self-esteem, and do poorly in school. Thus, a child's social and emotional health is just as important as their physical health, and affects their capacity to develop and lead a fulfilling life. Two of the most important practices to promote a child's social and emotional health are to 1, build trusting relationships with the adults who work with them, and 2, to teach them intentional lessons focused on skills like identifying and describing emotions, learning positive ways to regulate one's emotions, problem solving, social skills, etc. I'm sure that none of this information is new to you. Now I want you to imagine that you are a 3 or 4 or 5-year-old student. You have difficulty regulating your emotions and are prone to have multiple meltdowns in a day. The first line of support is your classroom teacher and a classroom aide. But this behavior is so severe that furniture is flying, screaming is happening. So you go to your second line of support. But wait, what day of the week is it? Because if it's Monday, you can call in Mrs. Prisabella to be there. But if it's Tuesday morning, it's Mrs. Farrell.
If it's Wednesday, it's Mrs. Prisabella again. Thursday, it's Mrs. Farrell, but only if it's not first of the month, because then she comes on Fridays. And on Friday, we have our new school psychologist, but she's only available if she's not testing other students. So, do you see any problems with this? How do you develop strong relationships with your support team if they are not in the building every single day? We are so incredibly fortunate that we have Mrs. Piper, who is not only our administrator, the CPSD chairwoman, but a constant support for our kids experiencing meltdowns. The problem is there's only one of her. And on any given day at Wheelock, you could have 3 to 5 children experiencing these strong emotions at the same time. Now, I sometimes feel like a broken record, reminding you that research supports early intervention. Our little kids do not have a voice. That's why we are here. We need to support the little one who is terrified of coming to school and has stopped talking because of the daily meltdowns he observes of some of his fellow classmates. Or the little one curled up in a ball because he witnessed a fight between his mom and dad before coming to school. Or the child who is punching or hitting his teachers and his friends. It's not his fault. He doesn't know how to handle the strong emotions he is experiencing. You see, this child witnessed his mother getting shot and killed in front of him. The teachers, support staff, and administrator at Wheelock are all amazing individuals. Despite the lack of support, we come to school each and every day with a smile on our face, our arms and hearts wide open to support these children. Dreaming of the day that we can have at least one full-time, consistent counselor and social worker to provide intervention for our kids. I mean, your kids too. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who would like to address the board? Thank you. Dr. Zoliak, you've got your district updates. And,
Yeah.
And before tonight's meeting, we realized that this is the last meeting of the school year. So I asked Dr. Zoliak to kind of prepare a little summary of the successes of the school year. So.
Yep. Yeah, kind of a mixed bag of a lot of things
Yes.
in this
Several things
superintendent's
tonight.
report.
Yes.
But I first want to say thanks for the comments about the high school schedule, and we'll talk about that a little bit at the end of this report. Also, thanks for the representation from Wheelock and the input tonight. I know our student support services met sometime last week to talk about the fact that we have 3 social workers now and how can we best utilize them in the district. Our admin team has a meeting this coming Wednesday afternoon to continue that conversation, so more information to follow, but thank you for sharing your thoughts. You might have noticed on the agenda tonight, Julie Clark was approved as a sub. Again, Julie is one of our 4th grade teachers who's retiring this year, so it's always nice to have somebody who is looking forward to coming back and at least subbing, and we'll be able to see her and connect with her and have her expertise still be part of the district, so we appreciate that and thank her for being willing to do so. I also wanted to say thanks for everybody who either helped organize our admin team or the individuals who are willing to be part of our summer programs at all 4 buildings, as well as our extended year in special education. These are great programs that run over the course of the summer, and students really benefit, and we really appreciate all the effort that has gone into getting us to this part, but also the work to come when we start up in July. So thanks to all for that. You might have noticed on our agenda, we approved a variety of instructional leaders, or ILs as we sometimes say, and team leaders as well. We appreciate those individuals being willing to step into those leadership positions within the teacher ranks, and we look forward to the work to come over the course of the next school year from that group. Lastly, we approved some summer cleaners and some IT support that are really critical to our operations over the summer, and we just want to recognize them and thank them for being willing to come in. I wanted to acknowledge Mr. Hawk tonight. I'm sorry that he's not here. This is technically his last board meeting with us. He did not run again to continue another term. Tom has been a great service to the board, to the community over many years, and I have appreciated his questions and his ability to look at things from a variety of perspectives, and also have a fine eye on the financial pieces of the district. So thank you to Mr. Hawk. I also wanted to recognize Lacey Drennan, who's here tonight, who became our first student rep on the board this school year. She has been fantastic in a variety of settings, not only here at our meetings, but also working as part of our district planning committee for long-term planning, and has just done an overall great job. And she'll have a chance to share a few thoughts a little bit later. But thank you, Lacey. You got this off to a great start, and we look forward to someone else picking up the tradition that you've started and doing a great job next year. So we'll keep you in the loop on who that might be. You know, as Mr. Aldridge said, we want to just take a minute, and I'm going to try to keep this moving, but in every school year there's challenges, and in every school year there's a lot of accomplishments and a lot to celebrate. And sometimes I know those challenges start to overtake you know, some of our thoughts and our thinking, but I always try to get back to there's a lot of fantastic things happening in Fredonia schools. There's a lot of fantastic people in Fredonia schools, and I'm really proud of a lot of the things I'm going to mention that have happened over the course of the school year. And some of them seem like a really long time ago, although they were just at the beginning of the school year, like the Wheelock Jamboree that got our year off to a great start. Community parent student event was spectacular. We had our spectator recognized early in the year by the Empire State Committee through Syracuse, and was awarded several recognitions. And then later on, I'll get to when they were recognized again, but that was early in the school year. We had Elizabeth Pucci-Schaefer and Leah Marsh participate in the Section 6 diving championships, which is a great accomplishment. We had our middle school musical, Aladdin Jr., which was a huge success. We had students participate in the NISBA art exhibition for New York State, which is a big honor. Our girls soccer team won the B1 division and earned another blue patch. Our girls tennis team went undefeated this year. Our model UN again had a great showing and received a variety of recognitions. Miriam LeBlanc went to All-State in the voice category, which is again a high level of accomplishment. Our unified club participated in the polar plunge again this year and raised over $5,000 to support that effort. Jordan Lucas from our softball team signed a Division I scholarship with St. Bonaventure, which doesn't happen every day. Our high school musical, Beauty and the Beast, again was another great success and eventually won several awards at Shays just recently. So kudos to all of them. An art gallery was established for Leah Arch, who unfortunately lost last year as one of our seniors. So we're happy to see her name alive and well in our school remaining. Our girls wrestling had 4 athletes qualify for states and for a program in its infancy. Again, a big accomplishment. We started long-term planning through our district planning team, and again are trying to be proactive and really get ahead of some of the challenges that we're facing. Our book buddies at the elementary school ran again this year and even was expanded, so that was fantastic. Our band took a trip to Chicago and came away with a number of awards as well. Ray Dye is going to participate in the 2024 Geography Olympiad in Ireland in about a month, I believe. So nice work by Ray. We were once again voted one of the best communities for music education in the nation, which we've won several times, but it's great to continue those traditions. We brought back the culture fair through our E&L department, which was a huge success, and our outreach coordinator was also a big big part of that. So that was great to see. We had 2 teams from our business class take first and second place in the high school Shark Tank competition, which again was a nice honor and a way to recognize our student. Coach Nick Bertrando won Coach of the Year for basketball season. Congrats to him. Our spring sports season was just outstanding. Our flag football, softball, basketball, track, golf, trap, and tennis all had outstanding seasons to round out the school year. We had a unified assembly this year for the first time with Jamestown, and that was a nice moment, a good community building event. We had several students participate in Special Olympics again this year. All of our music concerts, fall, winter, spring, were amazing and outstanding and continue to carry on the tradition of excellence at Fredonia. The Flag Day celebration at Wheelock just recently was outstanding with a great turnout. And the kids doing a great job singing a number of songs and really, again, bringing the community together. The Spectator again, later in the year, won the New York State Association Press Award and were recognized at Saratoga later on. And we just really want to thank everybody for their hard work, dedication, and commitment to our students, to our district, to our community, and it is very much appreciated. So, just trying to hit the highlights of the school year that, when you really look at it from a big picture point of view, went very well with a lot of great things happening. So,
It did. It was a great year.
absolutely.
Things are going well. We realize that we have ways to go. There's always places for improvement, but I think that, as you highlighted, it's been a great year.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Also wanted to touch real quick, you probably noticed on our agenda a few resignations. We want to thank Michelle Gehring, who came mid-year and got our French classes to the end of the year. Thank you for her. Also Emily Klein, a grade 6 teacher who is moving on to the district to be closer to her family and home near Buffalo. She wanted to make it clear to everybody that that was the motivation for her move, and she loves Fredonia's and enjoyed being part of the school and our community and the middle school in particular, and just wanted to make sure that was understood by anybody who might be just looking at the agenda more casually. Mr. Lauer is going to be moving on to a new position at Southwestern. His contributions to our physics program, coaching, our assistant principal, and AD positions has been outstanding. He will definitely be missed, and we thank him for his service to our district. Dory Johnson from Mrs. Tomaszewski's room is retiring this year. Again, somebody who just has a huge heart and somebody who's really put a lot of time and energy into creating an experience for students that are both memorable and meaningful, and we want to recognize her as well. You might have noticed the name Taya Sharp on the agenda, who has been struggling for the past year with New York State to get things sorted out with her certification, which has finally happened. So she is no longer a long-term sub, but is now a probationary teacher in the district. We look forward to a long career here in Fredonia for Taya. And also Aaron Smith on the agenda tonight, who is a cleaner in the district and earned permanent employment and is no longer in his probationary period. So congrats to him as well. One of the other things the board has tonight is each year we set tuition rates for students who do not reside in Fredonia but attend Fredonia schools. The plan was for us to have a brief conversation tonight and think about some type of approval at the July 1 meeting. We've done a couple things in the past to increase those tuition rates at the same rate as our levy increase. And then there was a suggestion at our last meeting that perhaps that rate should be more equivalent to the amount that our budget increases each year. So for this year, that would be a difference of roughly 2% to roughly 5%. And you have a sheet there that kind of outlines some of the differences between those two amounts, what that might look like for families. You also have some information there about what this looks like from a state average perspective in New York State. And again, tonight is not our decision-making moment, but I just wanted to put it on the floor for any comments or any follow-up from our brief discussion last meeting. And I think really what it comes down to is, are we more comfortable around that 2% or around that 5%? Again, 2% associated with the levy increase, 5% associated with the total increase in our budget from last year. Any thoughts for tonight, or would we just like to process and then come back to it on July 1?
This is something that our audit committee has looked at, we had comments of. Anything from the audit committee, other members?
I think not, in addition to Dr. Ziliak's kind of summed up the options and the differences.
And we've had time to process this, are we still in that 5% thought, or?
I don't know if the other members have had any time, other than, we had the audit meeting, we've had more time, so probably the two of you.
Well, just to understand, because now I'm confused, are we looking, did the audit committee recommend 2% or 5% or something else?
We didn't recommend, we just had some time to talk about it, so, and it was 2% that we were debating between 2 and 5? It was 2. Yeah, so we were, do we want to keep it at, the minimum was the tax increase, or do we go with the school law increasing it by what the budget is?
So, no, our audit committee did not recommend. We were still in the phase of processing this too. It was our first look at this of any difference. And without sounding heartless, we have a responsibility in this board to our district taxpayers. We don't have a responsibility to non-district taxpayers. And when we look at our tuition rates compared to other schools in the region, other schools in the state, we're pretty reasonable. And that was one of the reasons why Mr. Bach has suggested moving this to a 5%, which is what our budget increase is. So, if anybody had any thoughts, those are mine.
I'm comfortable with Tom's recommendation, the difference of $218. I think that's, as you stated, first and foremost, it's our taxpayers.
So if I'm reading this correct, at the 1.71, the increase would be $73.
At the 7-12 level.
Excuse me?
At the grade 7 through 12 level.
Correct. And then at the 5%, it would be a $200 increase. So the difference is going to be a little less than $150 difference. So,
I guess I just do want to, I agree with everything you said, I'm actually fine with the 5%, but I do want to acknowledge we're not responsible to taxpayers in other districts, but the students who come to us and pay that out of district tuition are very important to us.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't mean to imply anything different. Yes, all of our students are important. So I think that we can probably move forward with the 5% increase that we would approve at the next meeting, and we would have the ability to discuss that at the next meeting also. Okay.
And we'll have it on as a resolution. I also wanted to touch real briefly on the capital project. There's really been 3 things we've been trying to accomplish. We have another meeting July 1 at 4 p.m. most likely be in the high school library. We'll get clarification on that. Again, these meetings are open to the public. There's not necessarily a public comment portion of those meetings, but anybody is welcome to sit in, listen, hear the conversation. We project the presentation, have copies for people of a variety of materials, so feel free to attend. But we've been trying to accomplish three things. One is to make sure that we are taking care of any of the maintenance items, what we're kind of calling the warm, safe, and dry items that are essential to maintaining our facilities, whether it's Wheelock or the main campus. And we're really trying to hone in on what work is essential now and what work will be essential a little bit later on. And trying to settle that. The second part of that is we had a variety of people attend our earlier open forum from the music program or in support of the music program that is growing at a significant rate. And we are getting to the point where we may not be able to fit ensembles in the space that we have available, so there's a part of the project that's looking at expanding those spaces, remodeling those spaces to accommodate these growing numbers. The third part of the project we've been spending a lot of time on is the athletic fields and athletic facilities. That has been a recurring theme at our board meetings, oftentimes in public comment, with concerns about safety and the condition of our fields, especially compared to other local districts. So we're trying to really hone in on and finalize the scope of that work and then the cost of that work. And again, the goal is to bring some propositions forward to our community in December for consideration. And we're just in the process of doing our due diligence and really bringing something forward that matches the feedback that we're getting, and also I think would be something that would be within the realm of being affordable for our community, although that's a little bit of a sliding scale depending on who you might talk to or what your opinion is there. So July 1 at 4 p.m. if you're interested, come on by the library and we'll have a public invitation for that shortly. Lastly, I just wanted to touch on the high school schedule, and thanks for pointing to the password here. Yeah. Sorry, we're using so I just wanted to remind anybody, I didn't want to give another presentation tonight, but Mr. Paschke did a really nice job at our last board meeting, which again is available through YouTube video if you'd like to see that. That just kind of summarized some of the reasons, some of the research, some of the thinking behind why we would consider going from a block to a traditional schedule. And what's that? This is good for right now. So I think we spent, I don't know, 45, 50 minutes roughly.
I was told an hour and 40, but I don't know.
I'm going to go with 45 or 50 minutes exploring that, and we appreciated his input. We also appreciated the questions from around the table, either from the board or elsewhere. Lacey had a lot of good questions from a student point of view. And I know Mr. Paschke is willing to share these slides if somebody was interested. The other thing that we did is, and I just had copies for the board tonight, is we put together some feedback in the form of questions that we got from both adults attached to the district and students, and really tried to think about what are the concerns from our stakeholders, and then what does that look like, or what does that mean to us, and potentially in a transitional phase from a block to a traditional schedule, how can we address these things in a thoughtful and meaningful way? So the purpose tonight is not to read every question and show you the response, but I just wanted to touch on some of the things that came up at our last board meeting, but also have been ongoing conversations since then. So there were questions about homework, about how will our internship program work, What kind of training and professional development would be attached to this? Would there be increase and decrease in staffing? Which the answer is no. Would this impact our special education scheduling? Which also the answer is no. They actually operate on a traditional schedule currently. Would there be an impact on ENL scheduling? And we don't see that being an issue at this time. We talked a little bit about instructional time versus class time and what is actually gained and lost. And this is sort of a pros and cons discussion in that from a technical point of view, there may be a loss in time. However, it is possible that there might be more of a focused effort in those shortest periods to really maximize the time that we do have with students. There was questions about science labs and some concerns about whether or not we would be able to continue to meet the requirement through New York State to be able to sit for Regents exams, and either in the block or in the traditional schedule, we are well above the time that's required. How might this impact our current math classes that have additional instructional time built in now? And that will continue to happen in the schedule. More from a student point of view, how will senior flex? Will it exist, and what might be the changes? It will definitely exist. Some of the timing might be different for flex. Same with advisement. How might that work? What would the changes be? And that'll be incorporated into a more of a traditional homeroom period. That will be a little bit shorter. We'll still allow time for some of those things to happen. Concerns about the 313 program, and again, there's some pros and cons in this, but we feel like there won't be any negative impact. In fact, it might be helpful that the schedule will be more consistent and not have to factor in an A and a B day. Will change impact OC's programs or OC's students, and again, it will, but we believe in a more positive manner. Questions about students who take AP and Regents exam, how will they simulate longer test-taking sessions? And you know, the reality is we really can't simulate a full 3-hour exam even in the block. But we do that as part of our midterm schedule, which would continue as it does currently. Questions, again, getting back to Lacey's concerns around some of the music and art and tech, and how will that be impacted? And we recognize that will cause people to be more creative and think a little bit differently about how we do things. There are a number of districts in New York State that operate on a block schedule, also on a traditional schedule. So we know that this can be done. We also operated on a block schedule a couple of years ago attached to COVID. So our teachers have experience with this recently and actually did it for the bulk of the school year. It will not impact start and end times of the day. We'll be able to offer our usual typical offerings. Lunches will not be impacted. And again, homework will be adjusted to an everyday rotation, and obviously if you're assigning homework for 2 days as opposed to just one, those assignments would be shorter and potentially a little bit more focused. Mr. Paschke, anything I missed or anything you wanted to touch on as we're just kind of revisiting the topic tonight?
No, that was pretty comprehensive.
And I do appreciate, and I wanted to thank people who are willing to come forward either in person, by phone, through email, and submit questions and have their concerns be noted. And thank you for being here tonight, again, for another perspective.
Yes, Brad, just one thing. I don't know if it was in there, I don't think it was, but I just wanted to hit the attendance piece and the number of kids that are struggling with attending, the benefit of meeting every day. If a kid misses, we have, again, 31% last year of our kids were chronically absent, missing 10% or more of our school days. If a student misses a Tuesday or a Thursday class, that always is going to be the case that there's 6 days between class meetings. And that just can't happen in a traditional schedule if they miss a day. And I think that having more opportunities to meet with your teacher and with your classmates is extremely important, that and in our current block schedule could be achieved.
Sure. Any follow-up questions from the board?
I don't have a question, well, I don't really have a question. I think that is in here.
Okay.
I remember looking over this document. And I'm just wondering, will this document be available to the school community?
Yes, we wanted to share it here tonight, and then make it available publicly. Yeah.
My question was similar in terms of, what can students and families expect in terms of that communication? Is it this FAQ? Is it a series of preparing for this change? What should our stakeholders expect beyond this and showing up, right, first day next year?
I think in addition to this, I want to give updates as we start working through the summer. Our teachers are going to be doing, they have 3 paid professional development days over the summer. They're also requesting additional days, or not additional days, my apologies, professional development throughout the year next year. And we will have a committee as we get into the school year that's going to be examining how do we tweak what we have changed to. And, no one is saying that we're committed to the schedule that we're going to be starting with next year as a permanent schedule. We want to have input, we want to involve all of our stakeholders. The idea now is to just start this and grow with it. We know that we can be successful under that type of a schedule, but can we be more successful as we work together to look at it? All of our students are going to be invited to, we have an orientation in August that is typically for freshmen and new students, but anyone who wants to come and attend that is welcome to do that. So we'll be going through what our changes are for this. Also, we currently have a cell phone committee working on changes for our cell phone policy, and we'll be able to introduce what we've come up with at the orientation. And then when we start school the first day, we usually have quite an extensive assembly to get the kids all the information that they need to know. We'll be taking extra time this year at the beginning of the year to go through all of those changes with our kids.
I really appreciate Mr. Paschke, the idea that we'll get something started and we figure out, right, how we can really maximize, the intent of that. So still curious, I guess, in terms of how you see that, measuring, collecting that feedback, and will that plan for the school year be laid out before we start the year, so that we're starting with this, but we already know after the first quarter, mid-year, what will we really be doing, and again, what can we expect, and even helping students understand this is the way to provide feedback, good and opportunities for continued improvement. Because I think that helps with the change, knowing that I have a target of when I can provide some of that feedback or when there might be additional discussion.
Sure, and I think that we're going to use the same model that we're using for our cell phone committee. If we have a decision completely locked up by the time we start the school year, the very first day of our cell phone committee, I asked them, so I'm asking for a commitment to go after our decision, because I want to continue to monitor and adjust as we do that. And that's what I want to do with this, that we will continue to monitor and adjust throughout the year. We'll have teachers and students and parents that are interested, just like we have on our cell phone committee, to go through that process and with regular updates throughout the year.
Thank you.
And if I can kind of piggyback on Lisa's question is, can we identify what those metrics are? How do we know we're successful in this? Getting together and having that talk is important, but.
It is, and it's even tough if you look at scheduling research between block and traditional and 4x4 block and all the different schedules that are out there. There's a lot of variation in what they say. Most of them say that kids perform similarly in any of the schedules. However, you get variation from year to year, even if you're on the same schedule. So you might have a class that you're looking at in 9th grade, and then next year's like, okay, that class performed this way, we're going to make a change. Let's see how the new 9th graders do. And it's completely different because they're different kids. Same thing even just going from 9th grade to 10th grade. They're taking completely different courses with different teachers. And it's hard to measure all of those things. So the hope is, one, and it's not the best, but we're going to be doing surveys to see how people feel about it, and that's going to be one general piece of it. We do our social emotional survey at the beginning and the end of the year, which I'm hopeful that there's going to be some feedback on the connectedness and the mental health feeling and the anxiety difference between the beginning of the year and the end of the school year. And furthermore, just we can look at grades. I don't know how reliable that is, though. You know, just because tests are different every year, students are different every year. But I'm hopeful that we're going to see in our lower third that their grades are better than they are currently, and hopefully, if they are here more regularly, if they miss a couple days here and there, they're not getting so far behind that they build their anxiety and stop coming. And that's been, you know, some of the bigger problems for us with attendance is that, you know, when I say they're chronically absent, 10% would be 18 school days, but the reality is, once you get super far behind, we have kids that are at 90 school days absent, over 100 school days absent, and that's horrible. And so I'm hopeful that when we look at those larger number of students that are getting to those gigantic values, we aren't going to see that as much. And so that's my hope. So we're going to look at, we have these kids that have these exorbitant number of days currently, and we have since COVID, that maybe we can see that drop with a different approach. I know what we're doing now hasn't affected it, so I'd like to try the change.
Are we going to include things, look at things like behavioral issues on the decline? Obviously,
I missed the first part of that. What did you?
Behavioral issues.
Okay.
So is this going to reduce that? Right. That's part of the hope. Is we're going to cut down on some of the social emotional problems the students are having. But ideally,
and that's hopeful. Yes. You know, there's arguments though that with a traditional schedule, since you're in the hallway more times during the day, that you could have more altercations in the hallway. But if the students feel better about being here, and you know, the hard part is coupling this at the same time with the cell phone thing. I think they go really well together, but by the same token, what's causing the difference? You know, it's difficult to say, but I think they're both really important things to be doing. So I value them both, and having kids in shorter classes, I think it's going to be easier for the kids to not have their phones. You know, as they're sitting in a class for 84 minutes, they're constantly thinking, I still don't have my phone, I still don't have my phone. And I think if we're breaking the day up, you know, with little chunks throughout the day, it might be easier to manage and, you know, socialize more, especially if they're going to be in classes more times per week.
So again, just one more thing here. Is there a plan in place then to track that? So do we have a mechanism where we have a behavioral issue, or we have issues in the hall, or we have something, it's reported somewhere, then we can go and search that. So
Yep,
we should be able to see that it's down.
Yeah, Power School tracks that every single time we have a discipline referral or like a fight or anything like that. If a kid swears or whatever, anything that's get written up, it's going to be in Power School. So we'll be able to track those. And Power School, we can break it up by the type of incidents, and so we can see how many incidences there are and what they are specifically, what categories they fall into.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I think the last meeting, I think several board members, myself included, were shocked by the attendance situation. And, you know, we have to do something. I mean, not only us, but it's the state's experiencing, the nation's experiencing. And we have to come up with some solutions. So, you know, maybe this is a piece of that. You know, I was surprised by the block schedule that you mentioned. If a kid attends on Tuesday and then they meet on Thursday, but that student was out, they don't meet until when?
The following Monday, so they go from Tuesday to Monday.
They missed an entire week of their seeing the teacher. So, yeah, attendance is, like I think a few board members here, very critical. We need to solve that. We need to work on this next year.
And it's multifaceted. I think the schedule is a piece of it, but you know, really improving the connectedness in the school and having the kids want to be here is a big piece of it. But the one thing that I know for sure, just from conversations with our kids who are missing so much, is that they get to a point where they miss a certain amount of school and they feel defeated, and that there's no way to get back because they've and it's not even, we give kids 50s as the lowest possible grade in their quarters. Even if they had a 2, they're gonna get a 50. But they've missed all of that knowledge, so even though we granted them a 50, to give them a hope that, hey, if you're never gonna come back from a 2, if you get a 2 in the first quarter, the rest of the year's pretty much done, almost guaranteed. So, you know, we're gonna give you the 50, and let's see if we can get you to keep coming, but if they don't come, you can't fill up that space, that gap that's created if they're not here.
Thank you. You're all set. Okay. We're gonna go a little different way about this tonight, and Mr. Hawk kind of messed things up.
He's still messing us up, right?
However, Ms. Golo, anything to add?
Well, I would have thanked Tom for all of his years and his, it's difficult to understand how much someone who's been on the board that long, how much they know, their experience, their knowledge. And so I learned a lot from him, so I would have liked to say that to him, that I learned a lot from him, not just historical data about Fredonia, because he's been here so long, but also his angles of questions and his perspective, and it really, I learned a lot about looking at things differently because of him, so I'm appreciative of that. The attendance is, I'm hoping we could hear some strategies, some ideas, maybe maybe next meeting. What do others, what's out there, what are ideas and strategies to try to combat that, because it's really bothersome. And then I'm still a little emotional from listening to you all, so I appreciate you sharing your stories, because I think that, we hear a lot from you, and you use the word trauma, but it's really helpful to hear what that looks like. So I appreciate you speaking, and I'm sorry you don't feel supported. So thank you for sharing this.
Thank you. Ms. Hawk?
Well, it's the last meeting of our year. So I do want to thank Mr. Hawk for his, I believe, 15 years of service on the school board. Like Courtney, I appreciate his perspective. He's so focused on the financials, and that's one of our major responsibilities as a school board. So I think that will be missed. Look forward to welcoming our new member at the next meeting. I have my second and last child graduating from the high school this year. We moved here 5.5 years ago, and my sister said my husband was going to work in Jamestown. I wanted to be near my parents who live in Williamsville and are 92 years old. And she said, consider Fredonia. It's got SUNY Fredonia, so it's going to be a little more robust as a town, and that's a really cool college, so you should look at that. And we did, and we loved it, and we settled here, and it has really enabled my younger son to become his best self. And so I will always be appreciative of Fredonia schools for that, and that's really why I'm here, because I ran for school board because I so appreciated the way the school embraced my two sons when we moved here in the middle of the school year. The way the teachers did and the way the other kids did too. So I want to acknowledge we had 2 very tragic losses. I'm sure there have been other tragedies that maybe I'm unaware of, not remembering, but Paula Troutman, who was just a wonderful, as we all know, a wonderful person, and I miss her, and Jessica Sinclair, who my son Michael's just was so impacted by that. He said she was the happiest person I ever saw. So those were real losses. And then I'll close with my mother, because she's so elderly, every week when I see her, she says, where do you live? And I say, Fredonia. And she says, do you like it? And so every week I have an opportunity to think again, do I like it? And every week I'm like, I love it. So thank you all for making that true.
Thank you. Mr. Marshall?
Much the same as my colleagues here have said. Thank you, Lacey, for your service. I wish Tom were here. I would have told him I've been waiting for a while to say he watches the budget like a hawk. do appreciate that I've picked his brain more than once and probably will continue to do so. And then thanks to all of the folks who spoke tonight to tell us their stories. We definitely listen.
Ms. Poplar?
Again, much of the same. Mr. Hawk was here as, I guess, the rest of us when we joined, so it'll be a very different experience not having Mr. Hawk here, and I appreciate him as well. Thank you, Sheila, for mentioning the losses that we had this year. Definitely, significant impact on the district. I do want to also thank those that came to speak tonight and at every meeting all year. I mean, it really is the only way that we have an opportunity to truly understand what's happening, what the community thinks, and then those that reach out individually as well. So I appreciate that very much, and as Aaron said, we listen, we do our best to respond and acknowledge. The other thing, I want to thank Dr. Ziliaks for all of the highlight reel. It really is impressive to hear that list of accomplishments, individual, team, department, the district, the school. But I also want to acknowledge that the small things, the things that happen one-on-one every single day are really what makes Fredonia so special and where our success is. So the highlights, awesome, very proud. Not taking anything away from that, but I also want to acknowledge what all of our teachers, our staff, and our faculty do day to day. So thank you for that.
Great. Lacey?
I just maybe want to say thank you for this amazing opportunity that you guys have all provided me. I want to thank Mr. Paschke, Dr. Ziliaks, and Dr. Wright, who were there for the interview process and who were wonderful through the entire thing. They were very supportive. They were very welcoming. I love coming into every school board meeting and seeing all the smiling, welcoming faces. Like, this opportunity has opened my eyes to a whole new aspect of our school that I was completely unaware of as a student. And I have appreciated all the positive feedback that I've received as well, while having this position. So I am very grateful for this opportunity and learning experience. And it's been a wonderful year.
Can we clap for Lacey?
Oh, I'm last.
No, you're not, but.
Well, it's a hard act to follow with all these great comments by the board members. I mean, really good. I'm going to double up a little bit. First of all, thank you for the speakers tonight and for the entire year. Lacey, thank you so much. You're an inaugural member, student member. It's been fantastic. Great comments in himself last week, giving us additional comments. Mr. Hawk, we're going to miss him. He certainly does give a perspective. He's been here a long time. I wish him all the best. Doubling up on the comments by Dr. Ziliaks, it's crazy to think all the accomplishments we had this year. Until you hear it, it took like 10 minutes to get through all of it. It just highlights the fact that we're a destination district. Students and teachers want to come here, and that's what I feel. I feel like we're a destination district. I wish all the departing staff members all the best. Welcome to all the ones that are joining us next year. And especially Mr. Lara. I recognize Mr. Lara. He had a history with me as my son's basketball coach, so I've known him a long time. And finally, why am I here? Dr. Ziliaks, you're over there. I was so uncomfortable the whole time.
You're the VP.
It's a different experience for me.
Okay. Mr. Paschke, anything going on here coming up?
We have some things coming up. I'm not going to repeat all the wonderful things were said, Lacey. Thank you, congratulations. But the comments of Dr. Ziliaks and what the board has said tonight, I don't think I've ever heard a board at the end of the year have the deep, rich, heartfelt, real discussion and comments that I did. So just bravo to our board members. Thank you for the heart and the time and the effort that you guys put in your positions. You obviously take it very seriously. So thank you for all of that. I want to thank all the high school people. I think I did last time, but just the retirees from the high school, fantastic. We just have a few activities left. We're finishing up our Regents exams. Next week we're going to have our senior clap out. We're returning to having the kids walk through the building. So they're going to be, our seniors are going to get their caps and gowns on. They're going to walk through the middle school while they're doing their talent show in the auditorium. So all the kids, there's going to be a break. We're going to walk across the stage. They're going to scream and shout. It's going to be awesome. Then we're going to run down the hall to the elementary school, whip around the elementary school really fast. Then we're going to go out to our cars, and we're still going to do the car parade on top of it, because we got to have it all if we don't. So we're going to do that too. I've got fire trucks. They're going to lead us off. Maybe a couple policemen. We're not sure on the police yet. They haven't responded, but I'm hopeful that they will be there. And then we're going to drive in our cars up to Wheelock, and we're going to go through the Wheelock bus loop. They're going to get cheered there, and then we're going to go do graduation rehearsal at King Concert Hall, which is really short. It's less than an hour. To prepare for the big day on the 30th, which is our graduation ceremony. It's one of my favorite days, not because it's the end, but because it's the beginning of a great thing for our kids, and it's a great thing to celebrate all of their accomplishments. We do have a lot more staff coming this year. I spent some time sending an email earlier in the year just saying, hey, we're all a part of this end result, and this is why we're all here to help kids get from point A to point B. And so let's all be there at point B to celebrate our kids, and a very good return on the invitation so far, so I'm happy for that. Thank you for the comments. I'm very supportive of having social workers or whatever it takes full-time at every grade level, and as you know, I mean, I came to bat for the high school looking for a full-time social worker, which we're hopefully having for next year, but I don't want to give that up. That's not what I'm saying. But I also don't want our other buildings to be suffering the same way that I know that we have been in the high school with having a social worker 2 days a week. And again, it's hard. You don't, on the 3 days they're not there, you don't have that resource. And when kids are showing up looking for that, it's hard. And so I just want to support our friends at Wheelock that need that. Certainly elementary school. The days that our people are at Wheelock, they're not at the elementary school, so it's kind of a similar situation there. So thank you for coming and everything that was said tonight from all of our speakers. Thank you for the comments on the schedule as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Piper, did you hear Mr. Paskey say that you, teachers and administrators at Wheelock School had an impact on those students walking across the stage?
It's true.
I mean, so don't think that you don't have anything to do with June 30th.
Oh, we know. The love we get when we drive through.
It gets them started.
It
gets them started. So I'm glad that they are going up to Wheelock, and that's where it started. And,
yeah, it's very
yes, it was very important to get that started.
definitely a great start.
Anything to add?
I just want to thank the team behind me. This is a very courageous, amazing group of women, just because that's women, not for any other reason. But these women do come in every day with big smiles, open hearts, despite what's happening around them. They smile, they get on kids' level and give them what they need, even though they may be getting hurt in the meantime. So I just have to honor their courage, because it really took a lot today to come, and they've been asking, well, what can we do, and I said, just advocate, just keep advocating for your students, and you did that very well tonight, so I'm proud of them, as always, I'm always proud of them. So I just have to say it was field day today, so I know they're exhausted, in 90-degree weather, so to come here tonight on top of that, but it was a great day, we had a lot of fun, so thank you.
Thank you.
And I have to say, I remember when Lisa came to the elementary school in 4th grade with a tour with her parents, and look at you now, see? You did well, Lisa, you did very well.
Yeah, we didn't make it easier on her either. We moved after Easter break and we made her do all the testing. After she was almost done in Virginia. We had a month left.
Oh, we built a lot.
Character building.
Character
Ms.
building.
Polinas.
So as you know, the middle school has had a very atypical year, but I'm very grateful to our amazing staff, our families, I mean, just for bringing us through the year on such a strong note. I mean, our teachers have planned amazing field trip opportunities for all of our kids in the past, probably every grade went in the last month or so lots of planning that has gone into that. We've started our final exams today, so our half days are filled with some review and then some exams. We have our field days for our 5th and 6th graders who are not taking world language exams, and then of course we get to wrap up the year with the talent show along with the clap out with the high schoolers. So, you know, certainly an exciting end of our year.
Great. If I could make a suggestion, we need to get a new nameplate from this place.
That's true. We'll be working on that.
There might be one in the works.
Just checking.
Thank you.
Yes. Mr. Forbes, you're good? Ms. Heinz-Morrison?
I just take notes.
Well, I was going to leave last comments for Mr. Hawk, but as I said, he kind of messed things up. Our next meeting will be July 1st, the day right after graduation, 6 o'clock in the high school library. Not right here, but in the high school library, with a 4 o'clock facilities workshop with yelling right beforehand. Also, I don't know if other board members received this from Sue and Steve Cobb. I find this, they do this every year, and it is, this is one of the most ironic cards that I ever received, because they thank us for our support to them, and yet I look at what these two do in leading this program every year, and they're thanking us, and I just, anyway, thank you to the Cobbs. I think they do a phenomenal job year after year. Correct? Yes. Lacey, so I had heard about a student member, board member, years ago, 3-4 years ago, and we tried getting it, and it took a while, okay? And I was very interested in having a student involved in our board. Partly because I wanted our board to be very focused on what we're here for, and that's students, okay? I thought that maybe we might get a little bit of what's going on in the high school, and I think that we get a pretty good understanding of that, but it helps. But I think that the big thing, and I was so glad that you had mentioned it, is what you've gained out of this. And your leadership, your understanding of the district, that was the big thing that I felt that this whole having a student board member involved in. So I am so thankful that you had gained that this year. Several of us were very impressed at the last meeting, the questions that you had and how professional that you were. And it was very clarifying questions. So thank you. I know that we've hopefully helped create the best self that you can be. So thank you, Lacey. I would also, I think that it was mentioned, but I know you're involved in the strategic long-term plan. Wonderful, and I've heard great things about your activity there. This is going to be a while, so because there's too many thanks that I have tonight. Brad, your continued emphasis on our mission, vision, core belief, our strategic long-term planning has made this district the destination district. one of the reasons for the success is that it took you so long to get through tonight. And yes, it is the little things, absolutely. But every time I see Mr. Johnston, I always say, we are in a great place, and we're getting better. We have a ways to go, but we're in a great place. Thank you very much. You've had some excellent hires, and I think that part of that is this mission, vision, core belief, the excellence that you're expecting from everyone in this district, and continuing to push those core beliefs and hold people to that. This past year, it wasn't all great, but you've worked through some pretty difficult situations. And obviously, the circumstance with the nurses was one of the places that you worked it through. And I felt that you did a great job with that. And you looked at it very logically. I think you worked with people. You didn't work against them. There was no animosity. It was always trying to find the best solution. I thank you for that. I think that this district is in a good place moving forward because of your excellent leadership. Thank you. To the board, I appreciate all of your dedication. I appreciate your inputs. I appreciate listening to each other. And we have gone through this Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. And it's seek first to understand and then be understood. And I appreciate our entire board being very good at that. I appreciate the respect that was shown, that is always shown, even in disagreements. I thank you for that. Thank you for embracing the continued education through workshops that we had with the New York School Board Association. I think that helped all of us. And unfortunately, there were a few years where we didn't have those, and it was because of COVID. But we got back into that, and I'll get back to that here in a bit. But thank you to the board. Mr. Johnston, thank you for being the sounding board, because there's a lot of things that we talk about, we see each other in the gym, and it's good to just be able to talk through certain things. You've been a wonderful sounding board this past year. You've been a partner in this whole thing, and it's not me being president, me being vice president. This has been a partnership. You've never wanted to control the conversation. You just wanted to be a partner, and that's been very much appreciated. And when I say that you listen, that you seek first to understand, then be understood, I think that you are at the top, and I appreciate that. You've helped through the super eval, and you've really taken that on. You've taken on the workshops that we had, and really got those set up. Thank you very much for that. Tom Hawk. I look at 2 people who have had the most tenure on this board, Ms. Fortner and myself. I've got 9.5 years. You've got 5.5 years. Mr. Hawk has got 15. Just the knowledge that he has, we'll miss that. I will miss that. 15 years of volunteer public service. He always had students in this district in mind, always. It was never about ego. It was never about drawing attention to himself. It's always for the district. His expertise in facilities, remember when we went through the facilities and he'd see a crack and he'd say, well, what's that crack from? There's a foundational something, and we just thought it was a crack. But there was something wrong with it. He'd see a water spot in the ceiling. He goes, well, there's a leak in the roof, and he just thought it was a bad tile. But he knew all these things. His expertise, you know, I'm not happy that he's not here, because I wanted him to hear all this, and I'm going to make sure he looks at the Zoom on this. Excuse me, yeah. Yeah. He had the ability to see what no one else could see. He was never afraid to ask difficult questions. But, you know, they were clarifying questions, and that's the board's responsibility, is to understand what's going on in this district. I learned a lot from his questions, and keeping this district accountable to our students and to our taxpayers. His contributions to the Facilities and Audit Committee will definitely be missed. I learned one thing from Mr. Hawk. I always thought it was kindergarten. No, it's kindy garden. You know, and his love of his granddaughter in Wheelock, his stories of that was always, you could tell that that was very important to him and his family. One other thing about, two more things about Mr. Hawk. We had a public speaker several years ago. It was an upset parent. And she was talking about her son, and you know, it was tough for us. There was a lot of friction there, and we couldn't quite get through to this parent. And Mr. Hawk just took this lady, and he said, I empathize with you. And the way that he talked with her, the way that it wasn't an apathy at all, it was total empathy. And he appreciated her coming to the board meeting that day and expressing her concern for her son. And the change in that lady's, that mother's attitude because of Tom was unbelievable. And I learned something from that. I learned empathy, which isn't always easy, but Tom was very good at that. Tom was always a friend to me, and serving as vice president. Remember, I needed some help moving a small couch, and Tom was there in a minute. Tom is the kind of person that if you were in a snow blizzard and you needed a shirt and he had only a shirt on, he would give it to you. He was that way. He was just a selfless man. But anyway, if I could have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will you pound us out with your mallet?
Thank you, everyone.